I wasn't listening. We were conversing a bit. But did I hear, and I think, did you say that a police officer was bludgeoned to death by the crowd at the January 6 riots?
I said a police officer was bludgeoned to death. I did not say at the hands of whom, Mr. Bishop.
Just who are you referring to, if you don't mind saying?
I can get that information for you in a few minutes.
Well, I just want to make sure, because
are you denying that that at least one Capitol police officer was murdered in the midst of what happened on January 6th?
Yeah, I think I am denying. I mean, here's what I understood, that there were reports early on that Sicknick was struck with a fire extinguisher, and that subsequently was debunked as false. He died of natural causes that were not connected to the event. Are we talking about the same person, Sicknick, or are we talking about somebody else? Seriously, I mean, it's
a genuine question, because the medical examiner, the U.S. Capitol Police put out a report agreeing with the medical examiner finding the USCP officer Brian Sicknick died of natural
Bishop,
causes.
well, just an initial thought, and I know that Mr. Roy, you too are an attorney. Mr. Bishop speaks often about how brilliant of an attorney he is. We're talking about but-for causation of Officer Sicknick's death, and so I would hope that you would at least concede, at a minimum, that Mr. Sicknick died as a result of what happened on January 6th. And I'm disappointed if you would suggest otherwise, sir.
Well, look, I don't think that's correct either, but was he bludgeoned to death? Is that, because I think Ms. Demings was even looking at, we were sotto voce between me and her saying he was. I'm sincere as I can be. My understanding is that was debunked, and Mr. Roy just read the medical examiner's information. Do you guys contend that he was bludgeoned to death?
I contend that 138 Capitol and D.C. police officers were injured, and that multiple Capitol police officers died as a direct result of what happened on January 6th. And I hope that you...
It's your time. You don't have to answer.
I hope you can see how one would question the sincerity of such a minute point in the midst of the gravity of everything else.
Would the gentleman yield?
Yeah.
Would the gentlelady yield?
Did you really say that Justice Kavanaugh was a morally bankrupt person?
Senator, as I explained, I did not write that letter. I did sign it.
Did you read it?
I read it quickly, yes.
And you signed it?
Yes, sir.
Did you really say that Justice Kavanaugh, if he was confirmed, would cause people to die?
As I stated, Senator, I understood those statements were overheated rhetoric, but I understood them to be just
yeah, but you said
rhetorical.
You said it, right?
I did sign the letter, yes, Senator.
Okay. Do you believe that Brett Kavanaugh is a morally bankrupt person?
Senator, sitting here as a judicial nominee, it is not appropriate for me to comment personally on any justice.
You said it. Do you believe that he's a morally bankrupt person?
Senator, it is not appropriate for me to comment.
Why not? You said it.
I understand.
Senator, I am giving you extra time, but can she be allowed to answer?
Sure. I just want an answer. I agree that she should answer. You're not going to answer my question?
I believe I've answered it to the best of my ability. Honestly, Senator, I respect completely the confirmation process and the authority of Justice Kavanaugh and every Supreme Court justice.
But this is real simple. You said just a few years ago, you weren't in law school, you weren't in college. You said Brett Kavanaugh is a morally bankrupt person. It's clear as thunder on a summer night. Now, you're under oath. Do you believe he is or not? How hard is that? You'll have much harder questions as a federal judge if you make it that far.
I appreciate the question, Senator. As I stated, those statements were rhetorical advocacy that I signed as an alum addressing my law school alma mater. I did not...
Well, let me ask you about this rhetorical advocacy. Does rhetorical advocacy mean you said something, but now that you've been nominated, you're scared that you can't get the votes, so you're going to try not to answer the question? Is that what rhetorical advocacy means? What is rhetorical advocacy? Is it a lie?
No, it's not a lie, Senator. I would say that it's statements that are made in service of an advocacy position.
Okay. And if you issue an opinion and you get reversed by the Supreme Court? Are you just going to say, oh, don't worry about it, justices, that was just rhetorical advocacy? What is this?
Absolutely not, Senator. If the court issues an opinion as a lower court judge, I would be absolutely bound to follow it. It is not merely rhetorical advocacy. It is the law of the land.
Okay, let me try one more time. Do you believe that Brett Kavanaugh is a morally bankrupt person?
Senator, as
Sitting here today, under oath.
Sitting here today under oath, I can assure you that I respect completely the authority of Justice Kavanaugh as a duly confirmed Supreme Court Justice of the United States.
Yes, ma'am, but do you believe he's morally bankrupt?
Senator, as I stated, I respect his authority and the authority of every Supreme Court Justice sitting on our court.
Yes, ma'am, but do you believe he's morally bankrupt?
My personal opinion is not appropriate for me to say. I respect his authority as a Supreme Court
So
Justice.
you think he
as I
is
do
morally
for-
bankrupt?
I did not say that, Senator.
But you signed a letter saying he was morally bankrupt.
Several years ago, as an alum addressing my law school alma mater, I did sign a letter that I believed was addressed only to my law school administration.
Oh, you
But
didn't
sitting
think
here
it would
today-
be public?
I did not understand that it would be used as a public advocacy piece. No, I
Okay.
believed it was only addressed to my law school administration.
And you signed that because you wanted to show fidelity to your alma mater, Yale Law School?
I signed it, Senator, at the time because I felt that it was an appropriate statement to make to my law school administration, notwithstanding the overheated rhetoric. But sitting here today as a judicial nominee, what I want to assure you is that as an advocate, as a litigator, as a neutral adjudicator, and as a judge, if confirmed, I would absolutely respect the authority of every Supreme Court justice and all of its precedents without reservation.
See, I don't believe you. I think you allowed your political beliefs to cloud your judgment. And I think you said a few years ago what you said about Brett Kavanaugh, and I think you believe it. And I can't imagine what it's going to be like to be a litigant in front of you with that demonstration of lack of judicial temperament and judgment. How can a litigant possibly think that you're not going to act on personal beliefs if you were so intemperate to say something like this? Last question. Are you proud of the fact that Yale Law School has a quota system limiting the number of Asian Americans? Have you ever written a letter about that? Or does that not, where does that fit in your socioeconomic view of the world that you think everybody else should adopt and you will impose if you're in a position of power?
Senator, I'm not aware of any policy like that, but what I can assure you is that I have a track record.
You need to get out more.
I have a track record as a neutral adjudicator. I have decided cases for nearly 5 years impartially by applying the law as set forth in our statutes, our Constitution, and our precedents. And I have applied that law impartially. I have ruled
You're the only
without
person in the Milky Way who believes you're impartial.
Mr. Chairman,
I'm done, Mr. Chairman.